It's another win for Derek McInnes as manager. It's another 4 goals and quite an eye-catching debut from Alexandros Kyziridis. This is Hearts Standard. This is Hearts Standard. I'm Craig Cairns, that's Joel Sked. We have just watched Hearts defeat Stirling Albion 4-0 at Forthbank Stadium, putting them in quite a commanding position in Group E in the Premier Sports Cup. What were your thoughts on that, Joel?
I felt it was a game of two halves, to use a cliche. I thought first half Hearts were dominant, really confident display. Stirling, I think, really struggled to cope with Hearts. They changed formation to start the game. I think Derek McInnes expected them to play with a back 5. They played with a back 4, and then it wasn't long into the half until they switched to a back 5 again, just because I think they were really getting done down the wings by Hearts. And I think that was a key focus of Hearts, and how well they did in that first half was that so much of it was through good partnerships and combination play down the wings. Second half, I just think with McInnes going to right back because Borchgrevink felt his hamstring at half time, so Nieuwenhof came in the middle. To use a phrase that McInnes used, Hearts lost a bit of fluency. There was lack of kind of intensity, and there wasn't the same zip as the first half. And I mean, it's one of those where the game was done and dusted by half time, so you could kind of accept it's kind of taken easy in the second half, but it was a wee bit of a less exciting watch, shall we say, in the second half.
Sorry about that noise. It sounds like they're taking the stadium down or something like that. That noise wasn't there when we started. I hope it's not too distracting. You mentioned a very positive first half. Most of that, I mean, a lot of it was down the sides, lots of switches of play, but a lot of it in particular was down the left-hand side from Kyziridis, his debut, hugging the touchline, often getting a cross-field pass, and then whether he came inside or whether he went down the outside, Milne would sort of like make his run mostly on the inside of him. But as you say, Stirling failed to cope with it and then had to change their shape. McGeechy had gone out to right back, started the game at right back, and he just wasn't coping at all. And then they moved him into the centre and put McNabb back to right back, and it helped a little bit. But I suppose Hearts were still quite rampant for the rest of that first half.
Yeah, McInnes spoke afterwards. Obviously, asked him about Kyziridis, asked him about the way his positioning, because you could see from the touchline that McInnes was kind of just doing that a lot. So just to say stay on that side and to really stretch the game. Forrest did it on the right hand side, and he talked about in training how they were kind of getting each other road. They were wanting to operate in the same space. So it was really important that Kyziridis stretched it and allowed Milne to come inside. And you've seen it with some of the intricate play where Kyziridis could drop the shoulder and go inside. He'd go down inside, and he likes to play a pass as well, play a pass in behind. There was a clip ball into Braga, he'd look to combine with Shankland, and then there was a couple where he just slid it in behind for Milne to run on. I think Hearts probably should have capitalised a bit more on some of the opportunities they created down that side, some of the space they got, into some of the positions they got. Either it was maybe decision making or some really good defending, but I think it was really important that across the first 45 minutes, whether it was coming down the right hand side where Borchgrevink, Forrest and McInnes kind of linked up well, or down the left hand side, there were chances and opportunities and openings being created.
Yeah, and one of the contributions from Kyziridis was there's a couple of balls into the box before that, but for the opening goal he puts in the cross from quite a deep position as well. We've spoken about in the last couple of post-match videos about the set-piece threat that Hearts now pose, but here it was slightly different. It was from the first 2 goals came from second phases of set-pieces, getting the ball back into the box when the big guys are still up there, mostly Craig Halkett today.
That was it, and you seen it with the first 2 goals was that yes, it came back out, but you could argue Hearts were probably more dangerous because Stirling Albion are still trying to reorganise, and you've still got the big,
whether you go out or not.
Yeah, exactly. And you've still got the big boys from Hearts, and as long as the delivery is good, which it was from Borchgrevink, it was for Kyziridis, it was really good. And then we got the customary set piece goal as well, right at the end with Halkett. It was from my view in this side, it was Halkett's goal where he won the header, and you just see how big a threat we've talked about before. If you can get the delivery right and get it into good areas, there's guys in the back line who are going to be a real threat for Hearts.
Quite an interesting front two. I think it was a front two that we wanted to see at some point. I mean, it wouldn't have been Shankland's best game. I don't think it's a criticism or anything. Not everybody's going to be brilliant every game. I thought he was one of the quieter players in the first half, and a very, very busy first half for Hearts. Even then, one of the best contributions of the half with that outside of the pass through ball right after Kyziridis scored. He's put Kyziridis through again. Probably should have scored another goal. And then in the second half, he was getting a wee bit more frustrated when Wilson wasn't slipping him in and things like that, and he didn't get his goal. But I think. Otherwise, I think it's got quite an exciting partnership. There's options there in attack anyway.
Yeah, massively. I mean, like Braga scoring again. The fact that goals are being shared around is really encouraging. Something that's been a criticism over the last couple of years, and you're better having loads of different options to score rather than just focusing on just one player. I actually thought Shanklin grew into the game first. I thought at times he was excellent in the first half, where he was dropping and just his ability to link the play with one touch, his awareness and vision of what's happening around it, his execution as well. There's a couple of times where he dropped in at halfway and there was one he just like, not a wall pass, but it was like a bounce pass, like went into him and he just turned it in, and it allowed Hearts to attack Stirling after getting in behind their midfield, because that one touch or that one pass has taken him out. Did it a couple of times and can understand the frustration. In the second half, he was denied by a brilliant save from Derek Gaston, and then
Wilson had two opportunities to slip him in quick succession. I
think there was quite a few times where Hearts would get to the final third and nothing would happen. Nothing would happen, and he was just like, well, I like him here, or he just wasn't getting in the right position. So you can understand the frustration, because it's good. He'll see other players scoring. He wants to get in the act as well. Braga, I thought, was lively. I think he's just going to be a real nuisance to play against. Running, especially runs in behind his left hand side. Could have had a couple of goals. Header was, I thought he done really, really well with the header, and he will. My fear was that him and Shanklin might end up operating in kind of similar positions, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Shanklin's going to be that focal point, and Braga can just drift and make runs into the channel and stretch teams as well. Yeah,
I didn't mean to imply that Shanklin had a poor game. It was just he was quiet, but still, when he was involved, he was great. We saw a first run out of midfield for Oisin McEntee. He got moved to right back for the second half because Borchgrevinck's gone off after feeling his hamstring. What did you think of McEntee's performance? The first half we'll talk about.
Yeah, I was really encouraged by it, because he was just running forward. He was making really good runs, and asked McInnes about it afterwards, and he talked about how there was quite an interesting observation that when Hearts have loads of the ball, sometimes like he might feel like he feels like he needs to get involved, and he's probably a player who is better in a team that's not got as much possession, where it's more about transitions or it's more about getting the opposition face and then breaking forward. But I actually thought he could be really useful in games where Hearts dominate possessions, because his willingness to run in behind, and he might move people around. McInnes kind of talked about maybe getting in Borchgrevink and Forest Road, and there was times where he was probably making the same run, but there was other times where he would make a really good run and it would create space, or he would get in behind. And there was one, I think he made a really good run in the build up to when there was that really flowing move early on. So yeah, I was encouraged by the prospect of what he can give Hearts in the midfield.
Is there any other things you want to touch on before we get out of here? I mean, we didn't really speak about the defensive partnership. We spoke about Halkett in an attacking sense, I guess. But do you think...
I thought Finlay had an untidy game.
Second half, I'd say so. Yeah,
and some of his passing was erratic. There was one where there's a couple of times he clipped it out, or there was one in the first half where it was a switch of play out to Forrest, but he didn't. Or it might be Borchgrevink, but he scooped it rather than zipped it. Yeah. So that got kind of cut out, and then the second.
There was a couple of times where he got the ball in the left centre back rolling, rather than letting the ball run across him, and he had a passing option in the left back out to the left wing back both times, and he didn't take it. Yeah. But yeah, I think Hearts in general were a little bit. There was a few worrying signs in the second half. I think nothing to get too concerned about, but they did kind of lose a bit of rhythm, I think, after the substitutes.
Yeah, there's been a kind of couple. You've seen it. Dunfermline game kind of lost away in the second half before changes. Hamilton game, not so much. I think Hamilton game was just in control, and then a couple of subs and it sparked it. And I think that's good with the fact that they've got options, and we'll get more options provided Kabori and Kirshota eventually get announced. You'll have more options to come off the bench in an attacking sense and provide something different and kind of give people a lift. But yeah, it's one where it's kind of not a reality check, but you're aware that it's still very much a work in progress. Looking on the positive side, it's went from Dunfermline to Hamilton to Stirling. I think you've been gradual improvement. You've noticed it, and getting there while also giving loads of players minutes in games. Jandanda and Khartoum got a wee bit of a run out today. Benny was in the stands because of a minor injury. Steinbender wasn't involved again because Kent and Kingsley were on the bench. So there's loads of options there. Second half was a bit disappointing, but at the same time, I'm not as worried. I'd be worried if you're like having to chase the game, but not so worried because the first half performance was so dominant, and it was probably an easy one to take your foot off the gas. But I do think trending in the right direction, and that starting 11 felt like close to what the starting 11 could be against Aberdeen.
Yeah, I mean, might be a different shape. Might drop one of the wingers and go with the back three. But I'd say that you're right. I think there's a good 7 or 8 players that'll start that Aberdeen game, I think. And
Harry Milne.
Just to add in what you were saying, because we need to speak about Harry Milne, and I mean we should have really spoke about him when we spoke about Kyziridis, because the way they linked together was really good. He's very good in an attacking sense. He's powerful, good at getting forward. He's got a good delivery. I also like how good he is at anticipating second balls, and he's very good at winning the ball back when a move breaks down and keeping the pressure on for Hearts, I feel. Yeah,
absolutely. I think he's a really good two-way player, and it's encouraging that you're not worried. You're not overly worried. I'm worried about these people.
I think we need to finish up.
Yeah, I've wanted this out, but it's encouraging early on that you're not too worried about the drop off from James Penrice. So I think that's a really big compliment for Harry Milne. But
yeah, exactly.
Early signs, you have to caveat all like the positives. It's the fact that it's Stirling Albion, and they I don't think they'll have a great League Two season by the looks of things. I might be wrong, but not say they'll have, but they don't think they're going to challenge for the League Two title at the moment. But you can only beat what's in front of you, and Hearts have been doing that and getting better at doing so. But there was real encouragement of the way that Milne and Kyziridis linked up, and I could give teams a real issue going forward.
Well, that's 3 wins out of 3, 12 goals in the process, all going in the right direction so far. Please check out everything at heartstandard.co.uk. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will link a few of the articles in the description as usual. We'll see you all soon.